Hey guys, welcome back to the Pancake Spy, and I'm coming at you with something different, something other than Star Wars and Fortnite, because I really like the show SpongeBob SquarePants. I still watch it to this day, and I decided I'm going to review Season 1. I am going to go through every episode in this series, and then I am going to give my opinion on it, a ranking, and then at the end, I will say where the season comes. If you'd like me to do Season 2, I want you to smash that like button. And please comment down below if you actually want me to. We're going to look at 5 episodes per episode on the channel. So, this might take a little bit to make. So, I'll just go through each episode, give my opinion on it, and then a ranking that I'm going to give it. So, without further ado, let's begin this adventure. Our first episode here is Help Wanted. This is not only the first episode on Season 1 or our adventure, but it was the first SpongeBob episode ever. And I think it's underrated. This episode is just so looked over by other episodes, and not only this season, but in more seasons, such as Pizza Delivery, Pickles, Hall Monitor, Band Geeks, Chocolate with Nuts, the list goes on. And this is a really great episode. This episode was about SpongeBob trying to get his job at the Krusty Krab. And Mr. Krabs like, oh, he's nothing. Let's just make him go on some wild adventure and we'll never see him again. Then, the Krusty Krab actually runs into trouble and SpongeBob saves everyone, earning his job due to his fry cooking mastery. And I really liked this episode. It was a simple plot, but it was the pioneer to the adventures that SpongeBob would later go on. The jokes were actually pretty funny, with Mr. Krabs' "Do you smell it? A smelly smell. A smelly smell that smells smelly." It's just one of the funniest lines in this show. And also when the nematodes are attacking the Krusty Krab and Mr. Krabs is giving orders to Mr. Squidward. He's like, batten down the hatches, Mr. Squidward. Turn the lifeboat, Mr. Squidward. And then he goes, I want my mommy, Mr. Squidward. It's such a simple kiddie joke, but it gets me every time. And then the hydrodynamic spatula. We get to meet SpongeBob, Patrick, Gary, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs. And I thought meeting Patrick for the first time went perfect. He's there to deliver his comedic lines, and then he's also there to boost SpongeBob's confidence. Squidward's there to try and get him away from the Krusty Krab and trick Mr. Krabs into thinking he's not. Gary's just Gary in this episode. He just sits around and goes meow. Mr. Krabs just doesn't believe in SpongeBob and ends up learning to believe in him. And SpongeBob goes to the quest. And, overall, this episode has a great story, great humor, and it introduced one of the finest group of characters in all of TV history. I give this an 8.5 out of 10. For its amazing storytelling, for coming up with one of the finest cast of characters in TV history, and for being the gateway to all the next other great SpongeBobs ahead of it. Next up, we have Reef Blower. This episode was shorter and was kind of like a short connected to Help Wanted. But it's still a very good episode. It's about Squidward finding some leaf on his turf and he doesn't want it, so he puts it on SpongeBob's side. SpongeBob gets his blower and starts trying to blow it away and ends up sucking all the water out of the ocean. Very simple plot. SpongeBob trying to just get rid of a leaf that won't go away. And it just brings him on this wild adventure. And even better about this episode, they use no words. It takes no words to actually figure this episode out. Because it's so well written that SpongeBob just, you know what he's doing. You know what Squidward's doing. You know what they're all doing. And you know what the plot is. And yeah, it's just, sorry, I dropped my phone. But in the end, it's just, isn't one of those episodes that tells you don't need words to have a good adventure. Or you don't need words in a show. And sometimes this episode can get pretty lame. But you know what? You gotta forgive SpongeBob. This was its second episode that they ever made. So don't put too much pressure on them. They were still trying. Or they were still coming up with ideas. So try not to blame them. Season 7 deserves the hate. Because they were pioneers by that time and they ruined their own show. This episode was kind of just a new adventure. I give Reef Blower a 6.5 out of 10. Great episode, but somewhat lacking. But not by much. Next up, Tea at the Tree Down. This episode, I got on a DVD, and it was one of the first episodes I ever saw. I saw one episode, and I really liked it, so my dad got me a DVD of SpongeBob episodes, and this episode was on it. And I really liked it. And it was the first episode I actually began watching over and over again. This was the introduction to Sandy Cheeks in the show. About SpongeBob meeting Sandy and going over to have tea with her and not realizing the dangers that air has on a sea creature. All of SpongeBob's, all those gasps, they always get me. Him trying to get his water, Patrick trying to support him, and then he jumps in, and then he's coughing away. SpongeBob begging for water, and nobody gets it. And the true MVP is the fancy finger, where Patrick has SpongeBob lift up his pinky finger and raise it high up in the air, and that's how to be fancy. My dad and I do that when we go to fancy places or restaurants. We'll just hold our pinky finger up in the air and just being fancy. So, just so memorable. That part is just so memorable. And you know what? So is this episode. I feel they brought Sandy Cheeks into this show perfectly. She's a great character. Well, she's kind of a hit or miss character at times. But overall, is a great character. But let's be honest, she got one of the best introductions. I give this a 9 out of 10. For some amazing storytelling, great humor, and memorable lines. Next up, Bubble Stand. This was the second official episode in the show. Or that came out separately. It's about SpongeBob just setting up a bubble stand and SpongeBob and Patrick blowing bubbles and ending up getting Squidward involved. This episode had such a simple plot, but turned out to be just so phenomenal. The lines are hysterical. You got the bubble blowing technique, which I don't really want to get into right now because it's too long. But SpongeBob's bubble blowing technique is so memorable. Patrick asking SpongeBob if he can borrow a quarter just to pay him back, so he can get SpongeBob biting the quarter. And then one of the most iconic lines in this whole show is when SpongeBob blows a bubble of an elephant. Patrick then says, "It's a giraffe." That's Patrick. In the later seasons, he says it aggressively, but he doesn't know any better. So overall, 8.5 out of 10. Just phenomenal episode. Ripped Pants. This will be the final episode I review today. SpongeBob rips his pants while lifting weights with Larry the Lobster. And because he gets a bunch of attention, he spoils himself with it. And goes overboard. Has one of the most memorable scenes with the lifeguard running over to save his life. And then he only ripped his pants and it was a joke. And then SpongeBob just overdoes it. The song "Rip Pants" is just, it's really great. And SpongeBob just sings out his mistakes. And I really like that. And of course, who would have thought the second episode in this show that was carving its way out was going to be about ripped pants? That was showing you that Steven Hellenberg knew what he was doing. He knew what was going to get the fans. And that says something. Because a lot of his work brought us, including me, into the series. May he never be forgotten. Well, he's not being forgotten by me. That's why I'm doing this ranking. That's why I'm ranking all the SpongeBob episodes from season 1. 1, because I want to do it, and 2, in memory of Steven Hellenberg. Anyway, enough mourning. I give Ripped Pants a 8 out of 10. Funny jokes, definitely a good song, and overall, it was a great episode. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed. I will do another 5 episodes pretty soon, and another 5 and another 5 until we finish this season. Like and comment if you want to see season 2, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.